welcome to Arbitral Insights, a podcast series brought to you by our international arbitration practice lawyers here at Reed Smith. I'm Peter Roscher, Global Head of Reed Smith's International Arbitration Practice. I hope you enjoy the industry commentary, insights and anecdotes we share with you in the course of this series, wherever in the world you are. If you have any questions about any of the topics discussed, please do contact our speakers. And with that, let's get started. I'm delighted to be joined for this episode of Arbitral Insights by Timothy Cook, an international arbitration partner in our Singapore office. Timothy is no stranger to Arbitral Insights, most recently looking into his crystal ball to forecast developments in international arbitration across Asia for our December 2021 Horizon Scanning podcast mini-series. Today, though, Tim is here to tell us about the Reed Smith Arbitration Pricing Calculator, an innovative mobile app which Timothy has developed as a solution for clients, arbitrators and private practitioners, and which was launched just this week by Reed Smith. Welcome, Timothy. Perhaps you could start by telling us exactly what the Arbitration Pricing Calculator is and why you developed it.
Thanks, Peter. It's good to be here again and to share some information about this app, which, as you say, we've just launched. In a nutshell, the app is a first-of-its-kind mobile solution, which I designed to help arbitration users calculate costs of arbitration at different institutions around the world. That process can be a little bit involved, and so the idea was to make it simple for clients, arbitration lawyers and arbitrators. I don't know about you, Peter, but I'm asked all the time to estimate fees of arbitration. And so you're probably familiar, and many of the listeners are probably familiar with the process that we have to go through to do that. You have to work out what the value dispute is, convert it to the right currency of the schedule of costs that the institution uses. Got to remember to factor in how many arbitrators there are going to be, and then navigate the various individual quirks of the institutional rules, their practice notes, their schedule of fees, and so on, to then arrive at that estimate. So I started this project with the aim of calculating ad valorem fees for institutions, so those that have schedules of fees with costs payable depending on how much is in dispute. But there are quite a number of institutions also that don't charge in that way, as you know. Sometimes they charge based on time spent by the tribunal. And so we wanted also to make sure that the app at least provided a rough and ready way to estimate those costs as well. So you can therefore input the charge out rates that an arbitrator may use and then estimate the number of hours that the tribunal would spend in order to come up with an approximate cost for arbitration. To make things a little bit more complicated, some institutions actually do both. So they charge ad valorem fees for the administration of arbitration and then hourly rates for the tribunal. But the arbitration pricing calculator does away with all the potential pitfalls, I think, that you might encounter when you're doing this. And so users can simply enter the amount in dispute and choose the institution and then get their estimated costs instantly. I think the other thing that's useful is that in addition to doing those calculations, you can also access a whole wealth of other information about an institution and its rules just by the tap of a screen. So it therefore saves time and an awful lot of hassle.
Well, that will be fantastic because sort of estimating these costs, etc., is such a suck on time. I mean, it'd be great, Tim, if you could talk our listeners briefly through how it actually works.
Yeah, it's designed to be as easy as possible to navigate. The app basically allows users to calculate those estimated administrative and tribunal costs. You've got over 20 currencies to choose for, and all you do is you enter in a couple of simple inputs. So you enter in the amount in dispute, you choose which currency that's in, you then identify the institution that's going to administer the case, you select whether there'll be one arbitrator or a panel of three, and then finally, if you anticipate the arbitration is going to be conducted along an expedited procedure or an emergency arbitration procedure, then you can just tap that button as well. And then once that's been entered, the app forecasts the expected costs based on the chosen institution's fee schedule and its practice notes. And as I said a moment ago, you can then tap on those results and get a whole load of other information about the institution and its rules. So some of the extra information includes things like estimating the deposits that you'll have to pay. So again, once you've worked out what the estimated costs are going to be, I typically get asked by clients, well, how much am I going to have to deposit with institution during the course of the arbitration? And so again, that calculation is done quickly and easily. There are also information about the arbitration rules themselves, its model clause, and then also the contact details of the institution. And then the last thing to mention is that the currency that you choose, those currencies, if you need to use exchange rates, then that's all done automatically by the app using up-to-date exchange rates.
That's fantastic. I mean, how many institutions are actually covered by the app?
At the moment, there are 37, and what we've done is we've chosen those that are really the most popular institutions across the world, so across America, Europe, Africa, Middle East, and the Asia Pacific. And then, we obviously recognise that from time to time, institutions do update their rules and their fee scales. In fact, in the course of COVID, we've seen an awful lot of institutions have done that update. But as and when they do update, we will update those schedules in the app as well and just push out an update as well. And then if you want to see the list of institutions, again, there's a tab in the app and you can go and look at an alphabetical listing.
And what about ad hoc arbitration?
Yes, this was something that we thought we ought to provide for as well. Peter, I think, as you know, most arbitrators tend to charge hourly rates in ad hoc arbitration. So what we've done is, again, just provided a way for, again, you can estimate what the hourly rates would be and then the estimated numbers, estimated hours that a tribunal will take. So again, it gives you some sort of way of measuring what those costs are likely to be. And then we've also provided further details of the most popular ad hoc rules. So the UNSTROL rules and those of the more established maritime and trade associations, so the LMAA, GAFTA, FOSFA, and so on.
Well, I know that you've had some great feedback from some of the institutions themselves, and that was as you were developing the app. It would be great to hear a bit more about that, Tim. And what's the reaction been from clients and others that you've shared this with, both before and since the launch? And I suppose the ultimate question is, why should people be interested to learn more?
Yeah, so maybe dealing first with the institution. So we've been speaking with them and showing them that the app as it's been in late stages of development. And I think what they've all consistently said is how easy it is to use. And the fact that users can see an estimate and they can see contact details that they can then speak to the institution if they have queries about the estimate or if they want to understand different features of the rule. So I think they like the fact that it has that ability to get users in touch with institutions easily. We've also spoken with clients and practitioners, and again, I think the recurring theme has been the amount of time it's going to save them and how it just points to information that they're likely to get asked about. And in particular, I think clients that have questions like the deposits or, can we use expedited procedure or an emergency procedure under those rules? All those sorts of things, are easily discoverable using the app. And I think the other thing that we had an eye on as well is arbitrators themselves. So, if an arbitrator is approached to sit as arbitrator on a matter, they can input the details in the arbitration and they can also estimate what their likely fees are going to be.
Well, that's great, Ron. Thanks very much, Tim, for coming on this podcast and telling us more about the arbitration pricing calculator, and also just for developing such an innovative product, which will, certainly make life a lot simpler. And I've mentioned this to you previously, just how in awe I am, for one, at the fact that you've coded this yourself. So a man of many talents. Just one final question before we close. How can people listening to this podcast find the app?
That's refreshingly easy. The app is free to download through the Apple and Google Play app stores, or you can go to our webpage at reedsmith.com and search for Arbitration Pricing Calculator for more information.
Fantastic. Well, all it remains now is that for the listeners to actually go and use the app, and they'll see just how fantastic it is. Thank you very much, Tim.
Thanks, Peter.
Arbitral Insights is a Reed Smith production. Our producer is Ali McCardle. For more information about Reed Smith's global international arbitration practice, email Jose Estigaraga at jia@reedsmith.com. You can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple, Google Play, Stitcher, reedsmith.com, and our social media accounts at Reedsmith LLP on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. This podcast is provided for educational purposes. It does not constitute legal advice and is not intended to establish an attorney-client relationship, nor is it intended to suggest or establish standards of care applicable to particular lawyers in any given situation. Prior results do not guarantee a similar outcome. Any views, opinions, or comments made by any external guest speaker are not to be attributed to Reedsmith LLP or its individual lawyers. All rights reserved.